since the Batman has been out for a full week, we decided to try another different kind of movie discussion. This is kind of a what if. What if Tim Burton had been the one behind the Joel Schumacher films, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin? I'm just going to say up front, we all know the blatantly obvious. It would be certainly both movies would have certainly been a lot darker in tone. They would not have been the 2-hour, $100 million live-action cartoons or basically action figure commercials that they were. That much would be screamingly obvious. And Michael Keaton, of course, would have still been Batman in place of Val Kilmer and George Clooney phoning it in from orbit. Although I can understand why both actors were that way. You know, Val Kilmer was going through a lot of personal shit at the time they were filming that, and George Clooney was constantly bouncing back and forth between filming Batman and Robin and filming episodes of ER. A lot of people don't realize this, but Batman Forever was originally supposed to be a lot darker. It was like Schumacher originally had filmed it to be a significantly darker film than what it turned out to be. The full cut of the movie ran about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and the reason Two-Face was in the story was because there was supposed to be a constant running theme of duality. You know, Two-Face's obsession with duality, you know, Batman constantly walking the tightrope between, you know, the Dark Knight and the billionaire playboy philanthropist. You know, there was an entire subplot that was 95% excised from the final cut of the movie, where Bruce kind of blames himself for his parents' death because he had read a passage in his father's diary that may have steered him in the direction of thinking it was his fault his parents were shot, because he wanted to go to the theater that night. And then it would conclude with him coming to terms with it wasn't his fault that his parents were murdered, it was Jack Napier's fault because Jack Napier pulled the trigger on them.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
I think Robin would have... I don't know if Robin would have been able to appear in Batman Forever, at least. I mean, Batman and Robin, he obviously would have been in it because his name is in the fucking title.
Right.
But I say that because Robin was supposed to appear in... There were different versions of the scripts for Batman 89 and Batman Returns where he was supposed to... where Dick Grayson was supposed to make an appearance. There's a... On the DVD, the special edition DVD for Batman 89, there's a scene that was scripted but never shot where the Joker would be the one responsible for the death of Dick Grayson's parents, and then Batman, of course, taking him in and turning him into Robin. But yeah. I'm 95% positive that Tim Burton just did not want Robin in any of his Batman movies because he finds the idea of Batman having a sidekick to be ridiculous. And I can see where he's coming from, but at the same time, Robin's been a thing in Bat lore since the early days.
Since at least the 40s.
At least. I mean, I think the movies would definitely have a different feel to them, like, as far as... and not just in tone, like, I bring up that they would have been a lot darker in tone, but, you know, Burton's Gotham was a lot more, you know, run down. It was more gothic in its architectural style. Schumacher's was more sort of semi-futuristic. It was very, like, neon-drenched. It was certainly a lot more colorful than Burton's aesthetic.
That was kind of a problem.
Yeah, I kind of dig the Schumacher movies, though, just for, you know, their wacky comic book type of... It's like the live-action 90s versions of the Adam West show.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure that's what they were going for anyway. The only thing missing was the frickin' word bubbles popping up whenever they hit somebody.
Yeah. I mean, they did have cartoon sound effects. Perhaps the biggest difference, I think, would have been in the cast. Obviously, Michael Keaton would have still been Batman, and I love Michael Keaton's Batman. I don't mind Val Kilmer and George Clooney's Batman. I know they didn't exactly put their all into their performances, but I think they still kind of had a charm.
I hope you're not talking about the nipples.
Obviously, I'm not talking about the bat nipples or the bat. That was a weird. I guess Schumacher wanted anatomically correct bat suits because he wanted them to look kind of like he wanted them to resemble statues of Greek gods or something. But it just
that explains the bat ass.
It's the apex of homoeroticism.
Pretty much.
Somebody needs to take a video compilation of Val Kilmer and George Clooney walking around in the bat suit, and you just hear the "too sexy for my shirt."
Oh God, no! I don't need that. I don't need that nightmare fuel. Lily doesn't either.
Well, I don't remember my dreams ever, so fuck it.
I always remember my dreams. And I can tell you one thing: they're always trippy as fuck. Well, sometimes only after I smoke weed.
I would think watching Batman high would be the ultimate experience, but that's just me.
I'm not sure about the first two movies, but if you're watching Forever and Robin high as fuck, it'll definitely be the experience.
Oh.
Again, even when you're sober, those movies still make it feel like you're freaking high.
This might weird some people out, but Batman Forever is actually my personal favorite of those original four movies. I don't know why. It's like it wants to have this serious, narrative. It still wants to kind of be a Tim Burton type of movie because Tim Burton was an executive producer on the film. But at the same time, Warner Brothers wanted a movie that was more safe and marketable, so it got retroactively turned into this live-action cartoon in post-production. Yeah. It's like these two drastically different tones just clashing fists against one another, and neither one of them can come to an agreement. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was Batman Returns was, well, obviously super dark and super violent. Penguin biting off a guy's nose didn't really help matters.
No, that was doing about as much to help the film's case as Ted Bundy.
But there was a McDonald's tie-in for a long. There was a McDonald's tie-in, and the violentness in the movie certainly didn't help that promotion.
No.
But then again, there was that line from Forever.
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through.
Which was obviously made just for a fucking McDonald's commercial.
Yeah. I remember seeing an interview with Tim Burton, and he was talking about meeting with some Warner execs prior to when the third movie was going into pre-production, and they just kept asking, but does it have to be so dark?
It's Batman, duh.
And here we are in 2022, and Warner execs still have not learned anything about trusting their director. Just look at the Category 5 clusterfuck that was Justice League.
First it was Tim Burton they screwed over, and now it was Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that was a very ambitious thought process, I'm sure, replacing a director who is not afraid of taking risks, who actually puts thought into every single frame of his own movies, with Joss fucking Whedon. And y'all can talk my ear off about Buffy and Angel and Firefly and this, that, and the other. Joss Whedon has always been a fucking hack. I didn't like him before the accusations against him came out, and I'm sorry, that first Avengers movie, it's kind of shit. I'm not saying this as a DC fanboy. I'm saying this as somebody who has watched the movie a couple times, and it just does nothing for me as a viewer. It's just there. The only good thing Joss Whedon has ever done was when he did uncredited rewrites on the first Speed movie to make Keanu Reeves' character less of an off-brand John McClane. That's it.
Right.
That's the only decent thing Joss Whedon has ever done. Moving on. Not in as far as 90s actors go, like the only I highly doubt Chris O'Donnell would still be Robin. I think he was a little old to play Robin even in 95, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, the thing about that is, you know, they make it very clear throughout the movie that he's 15 years old, and I'm just sitting there thinking, your bullshit detector's going up now because Chris O'Donnell was 25 at the time of filming.
I was about to say he looked 25 in Batman Forever. So, well, shit. I mean, not to slam his performance, I think he did fine with the material he was given, but that doesn't change the fact that he was too old to play Robin even in the mid-90s.
Yeah, between the 50s and early 90s, it seems like you had like frickin' between like late 20s, late 30-year-olds playing teenagers.
Yeah, that's been a recurring thing. Like, I wouldn't piss on the MCU to put out a fire, but at least when they when they went out to look for an actor to play Peter Parker, they went with somebody who did look like he was still in high school.
Tobey Maguire was 27 when he first played Spider-Man, and Andrew Garfield was 29 when he first played Spider-Man, but Tom Holland had literally he was either just turned 20 or was about to be 20.
Yeah, and he still looked like a high school kid. I mean, as far as 90s actors would go, perhaps their best bet would have been Edward Furlong. You know, he was still kind of a hot property in Hollywood. Even though Terminator 2 had come out like 4 years prior to when Batman Forever came out, you still could have gone for him. He was in his late teens. I would have bought it more than Chris O'Donnell.
And while I'm thinking about it, in terms of Two-Face and Batman Forever, my girlfriend personally said she would have kept Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, but if Tim Burton directed it, he probably would have brought back Billy D. Williams and his Two-Face, because Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in Batman 89.
Yeah, and he signed on for that role for no other reason than he wanted to be Two-Face. Actually, Christopher Walken's character in Batman Returns was supposed to be Harvey Dent. It was supposed to be Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, and that bit at the end when Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman goes in for the smooch with the stun gun between their mouths, that was supposed to be what burns half of Dent's face and turns him into Two-Face. But then, I don't know what happened with Billy D. Williams. Somebody at Warner, I guess, bought him out of his contract, and it's like they hired Tommy Lee Jones, and they were like, hey, you know that character Stranix that you just played in Under Siege? We'll do that, but if he never winds down.
Porky Pig, little red fucker with a mustache. One of the big chicken.
All of my life, Saturday morning cartoons, the best. Do you remember those two little shrimp coming in, riding in on those two little seahorses with little hats, little chaps, little pistols, bam, 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 shooting back over their shoulders, rescue that lobster from the Swedish cook? Funniest thing I ever saw in my life. Splendid work, by the way. My. How hell doth quicken the spirit.
Have you seen Under Siege?
If I did, it was a long time ago,
Okay.
but the name rings a bell.
It's a Steven Seagal movie that is essentially Die Hard on a Navy battleship.
Gotcha.
And Tommy Lee Jones is the main villain, and he's this CIA burnout who's looking to steal some nuclear warheads and sell them to North Korea.
Oh, brother.
And Gary Busey is in the movie.
AKA someone who would have been a good Joker.
Yeah, back then he probably could have made a good Joker, and you know, since we're talking Batman Forever, Jim Carrey could have been a good Joker.
Gary Busey probably could have been a good Harvey Dent / Two-Face as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this. Before we started recording, you had mentioned Robin Williams would have made a good Riddler, which I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend says.
But
Directed.
He was originally supposed to be the Riddler in Batman Forever, but he was also in the running to play Joker in Batman 89, and Warner Brothers really wanted Jack Nicholson. So they kind of just, they were like, look, you can do this. They went to Jack Nicholson and were like, look, you can do this movie, or we're just going to give it to somebody else. And they basically used Robin Williams as bait to get Jack Nicholson to sign on for Batman 89.
In other words, another actor Warner Brothers did dirty.
Yeah, and when Robin Williams found out about it, not only did he reject the offer to play the Riddler in Batman Forever, but he refused to sign on to any Warner Brothers projects for years until they issued him a formal apology. I don't know if they ever did. I don't know if he ever did another Warner movie before he passed, but I completely understand why he would do that.
Yeah, I don't really blame him at all. Honestly, Robin Williams is one of the most wholesome actors you can work with, so to do him dirty, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
They say, well, there's a saying that goes, there's nothing scarier than the rage of the gentle man.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I don't want to see Robin Williams pissed off.
Oh god, him pissed off would have been scary, I'm sure. For a guy who would go out of his way to make anyone to brighten up anyone's day. I mean, when Spielberg was making Schindler's List, he was working with such depressing material that he had Robin Williams on call at all times to just do, and he would call him up, and right there Robin would do like 15 minutes of impromptu stand-up just to keep Spielberg from falling into a permanently depressive state.
See? That makes me even sadder. I never got to meet him before he passed away.
Yeah, I mean, Spielberg was making Schindler's List. Can you blame the fucking guy?
Yeah.
Now that we have established that Billy D. Williams staying on as Harvey Dent would have been fine. Let's see, mid-90s, who would have made a good Riddler?
James Spade?
I have honestly never, to my knowledge, seen anything that he's in. I probably see him in something and I just don't remember what it was. Like, if we're talking Edward Nygma, it's got to be somebody that you would never really, like somebody unassuming. Like, you just look at him and you'd think, oh no, that guy can't possibly be an evil criminal mastermind. I don't know, Steve Buscemi?
I can see Steve Buscemi as the Riddler. I can see that. He has that face.
He does.
Or I just thought of someone. Clint Howard.
Oh, yes!
Clint Howard as the Riddler, a.k.a. the frickin' ice cream man, and that one weird guy from the Rob Zombie comatose state for 15 years.
Yes!
I can see that guy as the Riddler in the 90s.
Yeah, that would have really worked. Like I said, it would have to be somebody completely unassuming, as somebody who you would easily just overlook them, which, Clint Howard, everybody overlooks Clint Howard.
Sadly.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have kept the Nicole Kidman character, or if I would have just brought back Michelle Pfeiffer, because Selina Kyle did survive the end of Batman Returns.
Honestly, I think they would have brought back Vicky Vale from Batman 89.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Kim Basinger fan. I didn't care for her character in Batman 89, but I could see that happening.
Especially if it's the same director.
I would have preferred the return of Michelle Pfeiffer's Selina Kyle, but I could see where that would happen.
And I believe, me and Lily believe that if there's a chance that Tim Burton might have included Scarecrow in Batman Forever.
Schumacher was supposed to. He was going to have Scarecrow in his follow-up to Batman and Robin.
Yeah, it was something called. It was either called Batman Triumphant or Batman Continues or something like that.
I think it was Batman Triumphant.
Yeah.
And
but it got shit canned, and we got Batman Begins instead.
Yeah, and then not to knock Cillian Murphy, because he was a great Scarecrow in Batman Begins. I think, didn't Schumacher want Nicolas Cage for Scarecrow, or am I completely off on that?
That I know nothing about. I just know that there's the castings for Scarecrow, which are two different people. Like, I chose one, Lee chose one. I personally would have brought on Brad Dourif to play the Scarecrow.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really not a Chucky fan, but I could easily see Brad Dourif being Scarecrow.
And before we started recording, I already told you what the girlfriend would have wanted, and that was David Bowie.
Yeah.
Seems more like a Schumacher fit.
Just so long as he doesn't have a conspicuous crotch bulge like in Labyrinth.
Right. I like that movie, but damn. I need to see that. Bowie did not need to see that.
Like, did you have to have pants that tight, Bowie? I know it was the 80s, but fuck.
You know how David Bowie was? David Bowie was a sex symbol of the 80s and 90s, so...
And now we move on to Batman and Robin, which... I'm going to say it up front, I would have kept Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. Maybe not have so many ice-related one-liners.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Schwarzenegger is a better actor than people give him credit for, and with the right script, he could have really, really done something with Mr. Freeze.
You already know what my favorite Schwarzenegger movies are.
Oh, yeah. My personal favorite's Total Recall.
That's a good movie.
Total Recall and Commando. Those are my top two. I will say this much. There needs to be somebody else. If we're talking putting in a different cast for Batman and Robin. I mean, like I said, I would have kept Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. You would have, but knowing Tim Burton, he definitely would not have. Frankly, if Tim Burton had done Batman Forever, I don't think he would have gone with Steve Buscemi for Riddler. I think he would have gone with, like, Johnny Depp or something.
Probably. I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp and Tim Burton are close buddies anyway.
Yeah. I mean, they've done so many movies together, it wouldn't surprise me if they were. But knowing Burton, I'm trying to think of who he would have gone with for Mr. Freeze.
You know who might have been a good Mr. Freeze in the 90s? Alfred Molina.
Huh?
Dr. Octopus from the Raimi films.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Alfred, unfortunately, that's the only movie I've seen him in. Kurt Russell could have made a good Mr. Freeze.
I can see that.
And it was 97. It was 97. He was probably working on Paul W.S. Anderson's Soldier. See also the last good movie Paul W.S. Anderson has made at present.
And let's not forget how in the 60s Batman show, Mr. Freeze was one of the villains where he was played by multiple actors, including that one that kind of looked like Darth Vader without the mask.
I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen episodes of the Adam West show. I just don't think I've seen ones that had Mr. Freeze in them. I still find it hilarious how Mr. Freeze he has to keep his body at sub-zero temperatures, but Schwarzenegger was very clearly smoking in that movie.
Cool party.
Friggin' ice cigars? I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
That would heat Mr. Freeze up, and it would probably kill him.
But then again, they weren't really good anyway, so...
But it's Schwarzenegger, so I'll let that slide.
Well, Schwarzenegger's a tough motherfucker.
Oh, yeah. I think Schumacher should have had his glasses checked when he thought Uma Thurman would have made a good Poison Ivy.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I watched that movie and I just don't see it. I don't see her as Poison Ivy.
Yeah, I'm having trouble trying to find I'm having trouble trying to think of a 90s actress.
I don't think Julia Roberts would have gone for it.
Probably not.
Oh, maybe. She wasn't exactly... She wasn't that high maintenance in the 90s.
I just thought of someone who could make a good Mr. Freeze in the 90s.
Who?
Tony Todd.
Dude.
And,
Yeah? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's voiced Darkseid in so many animated films, so he has some experience of playing DC supervillains.
Yeah?
People are wanting him to be either him or Giancarlo Esposito as Mr. Freeze in the Batman sequel.
Giancarlo Esposito, who I could also see.
Wasn't he in Better Call Saul?
I don't know about Better Call Saul. I know he was on Breaking Bad.
He was on The Mandalorian as an Imperial commander.
Yeah, he's in that new Far Cry game, too. Julia Roberts is the only thing really popping in my head for Poison Ivy at that time.
Yeah, just...
Or, Famke Janssen, who was Xenia Onatopp in GoldenEye.
I can see that. How would you feel about Julianne Moore as Poison Ivy?
I could also see that. She would have to kind of work on her frame a little bit at that point in time, but I could easily see that happening. I don't know who the front-flipping fuck they would have gotten for Batgirl. Whoever decided Alicia Silverstone, first off, can act, but also whoever decided Alicia Silverstone should play Batgirl needs to have their head examined. Alicia Silverstone is to the 90s what Scarlett Johansson is now. She's a face and a pair of tits. She can't act. She can't even act like she's acting. She can't even act like she's reading a script. And whoever decided that Barbara needed to be Alfred's niece instead of Gordon's daughter, and then couldn't even be asked to tell Alicia Silverstone that she needs to apply a British accent to make her character a little bit more believable. Even if it was a shitty, cartoony attempt at a British accent, if she had tried a British accent, I could have at least... I would have been like, okay, well, you did that much. No, she couldn't even do that. It's like Scarlett Johansson playing the Black Widow. It's like, where the fuck is your Russian accent? You're Russian. You're supposed to have a Russian accent. What the shit?
Personally, I think it was just her hanging around Americans. Make it to where her character was just hanging around Americans too long and eventually just lost the Russian accent, but that sounds like bullshit, I know.
Yeah, because in the scene where we're introduced to her, Alfred makes the remark. She goes, how did you manage to come all the way here from England? Well, that implies that she's been living in England for a while. Possibly her whole life. So she, at the bare minimum, should still have that British accent. But it's nowhere to be found because Alicia Silverstone can't fucking act. I mean, if we're talking 90s, Rosamund Pike wasn't exactly a big name yet in 1997, because Die Another Day wouldn't be out for another 5 years. At least she's actually British, so assuming we were supposed to keep the bullshit logic of Barbara being Alfred's niece instead of Gordon's daughter. Knowing Burton, because he really wanted to stay close to the style and tone of the comic books, if I was Burton, I probably would have put Neve Campbell in Barbara Gordon's role.
I can see that. I'm not sure she would have been available in 97 because, Scream 2.
Yeah, but it's a nice thought. A nice what if. I don't know if Burton would have kept Bane or not, or if he did, Bane would be a wildly different character. Because Schumacher kind of just used him as a dumb grunt for Poison Ivy. And I don't see Burton doing the same. I see Burton, if he was going to use Bane in that film, he would have probably kept that, Bane is a highly intelligent character. He has the brains and the brawn to go to balance out, even if he is a roided up freak. I was with Tom Hardy's Bane up until the reveal of Talia al Ghul in The Dark Knight Rises. that twist did not feel earned.
Hardly anything about those movies felt earned.
The revelation of Liam Neeson's character being as Ra's al Ghul, I thought that twist was pretty well earned. I mean, Batman Begins is, I think, the stronger movie of that whole trilogy. The Dark Knight is good, but my opinion of it was tainted by months of hype that culminated in me watching it and just being like, that's it? For 10 years. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with The Dark Knight, and Dark Knight Rises I really wanted to like, but it didn't feel like Nolan made it because he wanted to give his Batman a satisfying conclusion. It felt like he made it out of obligation.
Well, they said from the start it was going to be a trilogy, so yeah, he kind of had to do it.
I think he said that if he had known he was going to do the third movie, he wouldn't have killed Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent's death in The Dark Knight is one of my biggest problems with it, because Aaron Eckhart was, people can talk my ear off all they want about Heath Ledger's Joker, but Aaron Eckhart owned that fucking movie. He owned every scene of that movie that he was in as Harvey Dent. It pisses me off that they barely did anything with him as Two-Face. It's like he becomes Two-Face, and then the movie just forgets about him for, like, most of the remaining runtime. And Chris Nolan is a better director than that. I think he's wildly overrated, but I know he should have known better. I mean, if you kept Scarecrow alive, for shit's sake, you could have kept Harvey Dent alive. So yeah, I don't know if Burton would have kept Bane in Batman and Robin, or if he would have saved him for another project. If he had put Bane in the movie, like, if we're talking late 90s, you have to have somebody built like a wrestler. So if I was Burton, I would have gone with somebody like, I don't know, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, or Paul White, The Big Show. Kevin Nash could have made a good Bane. Or Glenn Jacobs, who was Kane. But, all this is speculation.
Yeah, but it all probably would have been a little bit better than what we ended up getting in the final product.
Yeah, even if they are guilty pleasures, what came before them was above that. It's a regular case of shoulda, coulda, woulda. Do you have anything to add?
This was a very decent topic to look into because, well, it is known that Tim Burton was originally going to be brought on board to direct these movies, but sadly Warner Brothers decided they were going to drop him off to the side and bring in Joel Schumacher. And, well, it's interesting to, go back and look as to what those movies probably could have been. I get the feeling that if Harvey Dent was in Batman Returns, he probably would have been in Batman Forever either way, honestly. You never know, because they brought back Michael Gough for all 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything to add?
Not really. Sorry, I had a mouthful of brownie there.
Yeah, I spaced out for a minute.
It is an interesting subject to look back on. I'm not sure if we should do another one of these, or if we probably could look on something else that you and I actually kind of like. I'm kind of leaning towards that live-action Super Mario Brothers movie, just because there's supposed to be a new animated one coming out in December this year.
Yeah, with Chris Pratt as Mario.
Charlie Day as Luigi. Keegan-Michael Key is playing Toad. Jack Black is playing Bowser. And I'm kind of worried about this one because Seth Rogen is playing Donkey Kong.
Yeah, fuck Seth Rogen.
I didn't like him even before he started acting like a cock on Twitter. But maybe that'll be a new discussion for a different video. Until then, so long and take care.